Welcome to The Explainer. In this edition, we're going to break down March 2025. And wow, what a month. It really felt like the world was being pulled in two totally opposite directions. Let's get into it.
I mean, seriously. On one hand, you have this incredible, unprecedented leap in artificial intelligence. And then you look at the headlines, and it's just geopolitical chaos and social unrest. It really puts a fascinating question on the table, right? As our technology is accelerating at this insane pace, is our world actually keeping up?
So let's start with that acceleration. Because March 2025, this wasn't just another month for AI news. No, this really marked a fundamental shift in what the entire industry is chasing after.
For the longest time, the story of AI was all about its creative side, wasn't it? Writing poems, making cool pictures. But March 2025, that's when things got serious. The new Holy Grail isn't just about beautiful output anymore, it's about verifiable, structured reasoning. This is all about moving from an AI that just sounds good to an AI that is good for science, for business, for anything where being right really matters. It's a race to build models that don't just create, but that you can actually trust to think.
And you saw the two biggest names in the game tackle this from totally different angles. You had Google's Gemini 2.5 Pro just bursting onto the scene, absolutely smashing all the performance leaderboards to become the new king. It's at a new record, especially in really complex math and science. But while Google was chasing that top score, OpenAI, they were playing a different game. They were going after reliability.
And this is huge. GPT 4.5 managed to slash its hallucination rate, when the AI just makes stuff up, almost in half. It dropped from over 61% down to just 37%. So yeah, maybe it didn't win the top performance prize, but for actually using it in the real world, it became a way more trustworthy and dependable tool.
And believe me, this was not just a two-horse race. The whole field was on fire. You had Anthropic diving deep into that methodical, step-by-step thinking with Claude 3.7. Baidu's Ernie 4.5 was showing off this crazy ability to understand emotional nuance and even jokes. And then there's Google, basically competing with itself, right? They put out Gemini Robotics to get this reasoning into the physical world, and at the same time dropped Gemma 3 to let developers everywhere get their hands on powerful models. The pace was just unbelievable.
Okay, so take a deep breath, because while the AI labs were in this super orderly, structured race for intelligence, the rest of the world, it felt like pure chaos. It's such a stark contrast. March 2025 was a month that really put global populations and the markets firmly on the defensive.
Over in the Middle East, we saw renewed military operations by Israel in Gaza, which led to at least 23 Palestinian deaths in those initial strikes. But at the very same time, something pretty significant happened inside the territory. Thousands of Palestinians actually took to the streets in what were the largest anti-Hamas protests since the conflict started. It really pointed to this deep, growing frustration with the ruling authority.
Meanwhile, in Ukraine, there was this tiny glimmer of hope on the diplomatic front. You had US-Russia talks that led to a fragile, tentative deal to stop attacks in the Black Sea and get that grain deal going again. But that fragility was really put to the test, with violence continuing on the ground. For instance, a Russian missile attack in Sumy wounded more than 80 people.
And this feeling of instability was, it was everywhere. In Turkey, over 1,400 people were arrested during massive anti-government protests. South Korea was fighting these devastating wildfires that killed 16 and forced tens of thousands from their homes. And in Japan, in a really historic move, a court revoked the legal status of the Unification Church, which has huge social fallout over there.
So, no surprise, all this global uncertainty showed up in the markets, which, as you can see, were a pretty cautious mixed bag. Bitcoin, which is always a good gut check for risk, took a 5% hit. Ethereum, though, kind of held its ground. Oil was still stubbornly high at $116 a barrel, a clear sign people were still worried about supply. This wasn't a market making big, bold moves. This was a market hunkering down.
Okay, so you've got this amazing, orderly progress in tech, and then this messy, chaotic world. So what's the connection? How can these new, smarter AI tools actually help us stay focused and productive when the world feels like it's trying to distract us every second? Let's bring this back home, to you and me.
All right, let's start with something we can all relate to, meetings, or more accurately, the absolute mountain of admin work that comes after the meeting. This is where an AI meeting assistant comes in. It's basically a tool designed to do all that heavy lifting for you. It listens, it understands, it pulls out the important stuff so you can actually, pay attention during the meeting itself.
A perfect example is a tool like Jamie AI, and what makes it so cool is how smooth it is. You don't have some awkward bot that has to join your call. Nope, you just connect it to your calendar and boom. After your meeting, you get a perfect summary with all the key decisions and the action items laid out for you. The source material mentioned this can cut down your post-meeting work by 30, even 50%. I mean, think about that. That's hours of your week you just get back.
And then there's automation. This always used to feel so complicated, right? Something only coders could do. But tools like Zapier AI have completely changed the game. You literally just type out what you want to happen in plain English. Like, hey, when I get an email with an invoice, save that attachment to my Dropbox and ping me on Slack. And the AI just builds that whole workflow for you. You can have these personal little robots working for you in like under 10 minutes. It's wild.
And the list just keeps growing. For any developers listening, there's Whisper Flow, which lets you just speak your code comments and documentation out loud, totally hands-free. It's a huge time saver. And for everybody else, big platforms like WebEx and Dialpad are building this summary tech right into their apps, so nobody on the team misses a key point ever again.
So, what's the big picture here? What does all this mean? There's a quote from the source material that just hits the nail on the head. The shift wasn't about making AI that could talk better. It was about making AI that could think better, more reliably, more logically, and in more structured ways.
And that really leaves us with a big final question, doesn't it? The tools we just talked about, they're just the first taste of this new wave of reasoning AI. Their whole purpose is to take care of the logical, the administrative, the boring stuff that eats up our days. And as they get better and better, they're going to free up so much of our time, so much of our mental energy. So the real question isn't about the tech anymore. It's about us. What are we going to do with all that time and focus we get back?